Hi, welcome back to Unique Minds of the Okanagan. I'm Robb O'Day, and we're on location in Kelowna with one of the Okanagan's founding fathers of our metal scene, Steve Bifford.
Thanks,
How
man.
are you, my friend?
Not bad, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. It's been good to sit down for a couple minutes before and do this. So why don't we dive into where you're from, how you got into music, and we'll dive into all the other bands and experiences that you had.
Well, I started taking lessons when I was a kid. I took acoustic lessons when I was about between 10 and 12. And then I got into electric once I was like 13, 14. And I've just kind of played heavy metal ever since. You know, I got into the earlier stuff like, all the bigger bands like Megadeth and Slayer and Metallica, that kind of thing. And then it's kind of all progressed since from there. So, yeah, it's been a good ride so far.
And you've had a lot of big names under your repertoire as well.
Yeah, some of the bands we played with, and the bands that I've played in, I played in a band called Amnos, which was like a thrash band, and I was like, I don't know, in my 20s for that. And then my band Severed Serenity, and I played with Empiria, I played with Thor for lots of different little tours with Thor. And and we've opened for pretty much everybody I've listened to except some of the bigger bands. So we played with 3 Inches of Blood and
legendary band.
Yeah, we played the venue with Empiria. We played with Sabaton, lots of festival shows, and all over Canada and stuff, doing stuff with all those bands. So it's been pretty good.
How was Sabaton?
Sabaton? Yeah,
How was
cool.
opening for Sabaton?
Yeah, no, it was cool. They were definitely, I wasn't a huge fan before we played with them, but after kind of seeing their shtick and how they do stuff, it was pretty cool.
I find that happens a lot.
Yeah, like they have like a huge stage show, with lots of, at the Vancouver one, it was at the venue. So they didn't have I don't think they had any pyro or anything, but they still had some concussion kind of stuff going off, I think. But, because they're all about, war and everything, so.
Yeah, Sabaton is, I've always kind of related to like that Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
The style of.
Yeah, you either
metal.
like them or you don't like them, right? They kind of got a certain, kind of vibe, with their singer. Yeah, but it's really cool. Like all the guys there, they're all really cool guys and, really down to earth. Snowy Shaw, actually from King Diamond, and he's been a session drummer. He played with Dream Evil and stuff. He was the touring drummer on that tour that we played, so that was really cool.
You didn't have the big beard way back in the den either, right?
No, it was pretty tiny. It was a little goatee.
Yeah, so I might be even just thinking of you and just like
maybe
not putting 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, it's probably half the size of what I am now too. Right?
Well, I mean, like as you've grown too with the band, like with different bands, which is like because you've watched the scene, and not just the scene, but like the music industry change in so many ways.
Yeah.
How's it been seeing it change? Is it getting better or is it getting worse, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's always kind of doing this evolving kind of thing as far as like different platforms and like the whole social media thing and stuff. I don't stay up on a lot of it. Like Rich, our singer, he does a lot of our other social media platforms and stuff. I just kind of use Facebook and I used to do YouTube and stuff for a bit, but I haven't done that in a while. So, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of more meat and potatoes back in the day, right? You put out a record and you just go and play shows for a couple of years or a year and do that kind of thing. And, you know, and that's kind of was your kind of bread and butter was the shows. And now everything's changed, right? I mean, a lot of people aren't making a lot of money off CDs but you got weird stuff coming back. You got like vinyl came back, and especially in Kelowna, I've noticed with a lot of the younger bands, they're putting stuff out on cassette.
Cassettes
And I'm
are
like,
huge again.
like, I never thought that would come back
VHS
around.
and cassette have both come back.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's insane.
Well, when we did, we did an Empiria show at Moonan's Post, and Mike had a box, the other guitar player from Empiria, and he had a box of old cassettes, and he's like, I'm going to bring these out and see what happened. We sold the whole box. That one show, he probably had, I don't know, 25, 30, 50 cassettes in there with jewel cases and everything, and they were gone.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I think we sold them really cheap too, but yeah, it was weird seeing that come back.
And that's the hard thing too, right? Like making a business out of the brand that you're building is probably another one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not about music anymore.
Yeah.
I wish it was, because then it'd be easy, but now it's definitely like, you gotta like focus on so many different things.
It's like, it kind of happened, you know, with the whole iTunes thing. It was like before you had like you'd have physical copies, you'd have, you know, all your different, you know, vinyl or whatever, you'd have all your physical copies. And then when Apple kind of came around with the iTunes and stuff, the big product was like the iPod or the iPhone, right? And so people were more interested in having that and getting their music free, right?
Well, they were still downloading. They still paid for the albums at that point. Now it's not. With the streaming, it's totally different, right?
But I mean, it's like what bands get paid on, you know, for streaming and the downloads and stuff. I mean, downloads, you obviously get paid a little more, but you know, it just all the stuff to do with the artist kind of got clawed back, right? And it's like instead of the artist being the product, it became other things first, and the artist took a back seat. And ever since that happened, it just everything just became a lot more difficult. But
honestly, that's become more of my drive, is that hustle for the business than it is about the music. And I'm guilty of not wanting to pick up my instrument to write anymore, because I'm so focused on having to focus on the business that the music's taken such a back burner, right? Do you find that you guys have to do that as well?
I don't know. I mean, with the old guard stuff, the band that I'm in now, the stuff we're doing, I try to just write the music. You know, I try not to get involved in a lot of the stuff because Rich is a really good artist, so he takes care of a lot of that. So I don't really have to focus on it, and I kind of like it that way. I'd rather just I've always told people for years that I didn't get into this to be a t-shirt salesman, even though that is part of the job. I mean, for me, it was always about the instrument. It was always about learning new techniques and becoming a better player and just playing guitar. I mean, that's what got me into it in the first place. You know, so for me, I always tried to stay true to that, but I mean, you could end up very poor from just doing that as well, right? But I mean, yeah, it's been a good ride. You know, it's been good. It's cool to be involved with other people who take care of different things, whereas opposed some of the stuff I had in the past, I was taking care of probably 90% of everything, so you get really burnt out.
That's where
right?
I'm at.
But now it's a good balance, right? Like Rich will do all the artwork stuff. I'll write the riffs, and then he'll write the lyrics, and then we kind of bring it all in together. And
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of how it's going now. So it's really cool. It's a lot easier to, you know, to write. You know, it's not as stressful, you know, because you're not just the one guy taking care of everything. Right?
But no, it's hard. It's real.
Yeah.
And like, and even if it's just mental, like you don't have to have a physical job. Like even just booking a tour,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
designing merch, trying to network. It's
Well, you
it's
know how
training.
that goes. Trying to line like 5 guys' schedules up is like almost impossible,
It's
right?
harder than trying to wrangle up a toddler to get out of the house to go to shopping. You know, honestly, yeah. And I think but that's like, it's always comes back to the same like kind of a topic where it's like the band are the parents and the music is the baby, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got to do their part, and if they're not doing their part, the baby's not going to flourish, and it's lacking in things. And it's the hardest part about being a musician is finding those people who are just as dedicated and have the same vision.
Yeah.
But like metal musicians are so dedicated to their craft and to the music that they love, and I find it so entertaining. It is the weirdest little offset of just culture that is so embracing and loving, and it's I don't know. I wouldn't give up the metal culture for anything. It's
definitely a weird thing. It's just
it's a weird entity.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at it compared to, you know, everything else that's going out there in the pop world and stuff, it's always kind of intertwined. Like lots of those pop artists and stuff, they listen to the heavier stuff too, right? And you could hear it come across in some of their music sometimes. And but yeah, metal's always, it's just this force that's kind of, you know, been in the background all the time that just never goes away. You know, as long as a 13-year-old kid picks up a Jackson guitar or a ESP guitar and, you know, starts playing Black Sabbath riffs, you know, it's, you know, it'll just continue to keep happening, you know.
It is a
And you think like some of those riffs, you know, say like, you know, Sabbath is doing they're gonna do their final show, or for Aussie anyways, coming up. And it's like, man, that stuff's been with me since I was a kid, you know.
it's crazy to think how long that is.
And it never ever sounded bad, right? Like you listen to that in the 90s, like I listened to that in the 90s and the 80s and stuff, and it's just that kind of music that's timeless, that it never sounds bad. It just gets better. And it's like wine or something.
What it is the quality of music and the dedication that we had to that spiritual element of music was lost in the 90s.
Yeah.
I blame it on grunge because I can't stand grunge, but I feel like that's where it happened. It was grunge, the grunge scene where it turned from.
And I didn't like that when that first stuff came up. I mean, it changed later. Once I got older and I kind of knew how things worked and stuff with the music, anybody who would dedicate their time to trying to be any kind of full-time musician, like my hats are off to them, you know, because it's a tough gig.
It's not worth it.
Yeah, and it's like
we're crazy.
yeah, and it could be very difficult. And for someone like that was coming out, like, I mean, like Alice in Chains kind of got pushed aside and stuff for a while, you know, because they were lumped in with that grunge thing. But I mean, I always thought they were just a good rock metal band, right? They always played like a metal band, and, you know, and people tried to grunge them, but I don't think they were at all. And, you know, nowadays, I mean, obviously they've survived the test of time too, right? They're still playing and doing their thing, even though Lane passed away and those other guys.
Because they had that soul.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, so I mean by it was lost in the 90s. Like, I feel that grunge, because grunge, I should rephrase it. It's not grunge's fault, but it is where it ended with grunge, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Because when you had like the emergence of the pop punk and the screamo and like what people would classify as the scene phase.
Yeah.
That was a total different style of music that what now created the metal that we are listening to today.
Yeah.
Which is the stuff that like me as a teenager I was driven to, because like growing up on Metallica, Megadeth, you're always naturally going to be looking for something heavier.
Yeah.
Right? And then it turns into Cradle of Filth and Demu, and it's just always evolving.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it hits a point where you don't want heavy, you want intricate.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you start to find these gorgeous progressive bands
like Opeth
and Dream Theater and Polyphia, and you start to realize it's not just loud, aggressive, fast music, but this is the symphonies of today. Have you ever dabbled in anything other than metal? I've never asked you this.
I did a few solo records that were like jazz fusion kind of type stuff. Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know, like that Steve Vai, Joe Satriani kind of stuff.
I was
probably more like
that.
Joe, right? Like I'm not a real fast player like Steve Vai is, but that Joe Satriani stuff where it's, and guys like Marty Friedman, where it's just, he'll play a couple notes and it's just the way he picks them and the way he attacks them pulls out the melody in the song and stuff. And I really like doing stuff like that. And so it's all like instrumental stuff. I did 2 albums of that a while back. I had a third one on the go and I just never finished it. I might probably do that in the next couple of years here.
You're gonna have to, because I want to listen to it.
Yeah, and so we'll do. It's all just instrumental stuff, but it's probably, it's probably Joe Satriani-ish sounding kind of stuff. I enjoyed that stuff too, instrumental guitar stuff. All stuff like flamenco or blues or even some old country and stuff. It doesn't matter, as long as the music is good and it makes you feel something, then that's really what matters, right? Yeah.
Music is my savior.
Yeah.
If I didn't pick up an instrument, I probably wouldn't be here. So for me to I always talk about it being a business and how it's like but that's because I've been doing this for 25 years, and now it's like I'm at a point where I can survive off of it, right? So for me to finally unlock that formula is a big thing for me to try and teach other people.
Yeah.
So because no one taught me that. We had to deal with 20 plus years of failures and losing money and relationships.
Well, and it's different for everyone else, right?
It is.
Like you'll see someone else do something a certain way.
Works for them.
And then you'll think, hey, well, I'll try that. And it'll totally flop. I've done that before. And I'm like, what the heck, right?
Yeah.
But it's a different journey for everyone. Everybody's kind of got a different music journey, and you just kind of gotta poke at it to figure out what's gonna work for you.
So over the years, with the amount of bands that you've had and the experiences you've had, what has been the biggest challenge for you to overcome?
I don't know. I've kind of learned from everything I've done, right? So I mean, I guess you always have challenges. I mean, obviously, trying to make a living at it can be tough, right? You always have to have a band together. You have to go out on the road and do shows a lot, and and still sometimes that's not enough, right? I mean, I used to teach and stuff. I used to teach guitar as well. So I always had other forms of income in music. But I mean, the stuff like when I was younger, it wasn't the same kind of struggles you have now, right? Like you're just out there trying to learn everything. But when you get older, it's like it's harder to come up with stuff without repeating yourself. You're trying not to repeat yourself. That people support your music for whatever they support it. They know you're gonna have a certain sound, and then you kind of deliver the goods, or maybe they don't like it. And I mean, but the older I've get, I mean, I'm lucky that, you know, I kind of got to a point now where I just don't care what, like I write the riffs and stuff for myself, and I make sure I'm happy with it. And then that's kind of what I do, you know, with it. And I'll like write something one day, and I used to record stuff on my phone. And I'll write a riff one day and I'll be, okay, this is really cool. And then I don't record anything. And I was like, if it comes back to me the next day, then it's worth keeping, right? Because I remembered something, right? I mean, that could also go really horrible too, right? But I mean, I stopped recording stuff on my phone and doing that. But I mean, it's changed so much over the years that, I mean, different stages, you're looking at different things. But I mean, I mean, nowadays, you know, trying to make a living at it, it's really tough. You know, you gotta be able to do lots of different things, right? You can't just sit on one. You know, you can't just be a guitar player. I mean, I guess if you taught guitar, you could. And you're doing other things like that, you're fine. But you can't just do one thing. It's like a super multitasking job, right? And that's not just one or two things, it's 5 or 6, right?
I think you touched on a valuable point though too, like it's, if you want to make money as a musician in the music industry, you kind of got to look in different avenues.
Yeah.
Like you said, like you can't just focus on writing the music and playing it. There's so many other ways, teaching music and this is, I think, where people
promoting shows, you do a lot of promotions,
like management, and like there's so many things like artwork there's so many things within the industry that are you can branch out to.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people doing it, like Kevin Moore, who's in Tidebringer. He's been a huge graphic designer in the music industry for
he's done some of my
Bleeding
shirts
Alarm
in the past.
Right. And it's like he's from here. I grew up hitchhiking to watch him perform, and he's now making the album covers.
That was with the Bleeding Alarm?
Yeah. And it's like, you know,
they're a cool band. They're really
so
cool.
good. Like that's what I mean. Like our music scene has been so good since 97, if not earlier. And it's just because it's such a small pocket of BC, people don't realize how much talent is hiding in Kelowna, which is why, that's why also where we focus on the musicians of Kelowna versus like the painters and stuff is because like there are a lot of painters that are talented, but a lot of the painters get the exposure because the city supports the arts and supports the painting and stuff. But like the music, it hand selects which music it would like to support. If you're not a singer-songwriter or a country artist, the city is not willing to book you and support you, even though our biggest bands that have ever made it out of Kelowna are metal, electronic music, and hip-hop. These are the biggest acts that have ever made it out of Kelowna.
Well, we don't have as many venues anymore.
No,
right?
and that's
Remember
what
we used
really
to have
happens.
bigger venues like the Habitat and stuff like that would have 300-400 people. And even if the place only had like 120 people,
you could fit like
it was still a good show,
there, right? Yeah. And that was the thing, or like, I think it's the way we go about it too. I've mentioned this many times in like interviews with bands. Is that we grew up and we ended up becoming of age. So that's what we focused on, was the crew of age. And then like 10 years down the road, when all of these people that we used to network and market to are now having kids, jobs, and bills, they can't afford to go to shows anymore. And it's like we turned our back on bringing in a new clientele and then wonder why there was nobody doing it. And it's because we never really inspired the next generation, which is like, that is our duty. Me and like Zach were talking about like our duty as musicians. Like my last interview is like, as a musician, we hit a point where we have to, it's like, it stops going from look at me to I have something to say that needs to be heard. And it inevitably happens, but it's like the choices and what you choose to say definitely changes. And the way you act as a musician. And I think that it's that maturing as an artist, that really is where your music starts to thrive. You know what I mean? Like, like you're saying, you used to like you write heavy the fastest you could, and now it's like you want to write music that is powerful to you, and it doesn't necessarily need to be. It can be slow and melodic. And
well,
beautiful.
and I mean, like originally, like the old guard stuff, it was like back to like some of the solo stuff. I had all these oddball songs that everything sounded different. And I wasn't actually going to put any of those out. And it's all the songs we have in our set with the old guard stuff. And they all sound different, right? We got a blues rock song. We got and they're all done heavy. But, you know, you'll have, you know, like just a straight ahead rock song, but done heavy. We'll have a thrash song. We'll have something where, you know, we're channel switching into clean guitars. And originally, like when we came out with that stuff, it was just supposed to be like kind of just like a side project, right? Because I'm like, who would put that many different things in there, right? But when you write for yourself, you just like, who cares?
Yeah,
I'm gonna put it out, and if people think it's weird, I got a blues thing next to a thrash song. Oh wow! Write your own record.
yeah, and I think that's the thing is there's like especially metal.
Yeah.
So gatekeeped. There's so many people who gatekeep the metal industry that it's kind of like, it really takes puts a nasty taste in your mouth, right? Because like, oh, that's not. Especially genres, like when you dive into genres and how like each genre has its own clique and like they don't want to play with each other, and it's
stupid. I mean, that was the cool thing. Like when we came back from the whole COVID thing. I mean, I know you guys saw it too. Everybody started playing with each other.
Yeah, we booked multi-genre
yeah,
shows.
like we're not doing super heavy stuff like Storm's doing, but we'd play a show with you, and we'd have a punk band.
We'd have Flannel open,
and we'd have like an acoustic singer-songwriter person. Yeah. We'd have all sorts of weird stuff going on, and it sounded awesome.
I still stick to that.
I hated like back when I was doing it all the time when I was younger. It was always like 5 or 6 death metal bands that all kind of did the same thing.
What are you guys planning on doing now? Like as Ilfgard, I know you guys are in the midst of... Yeah, I know you guys are in the midst of working on getting a drummer and all of this.
So we got Tyler right now from Nataka is playing with us, and he's just kind of filling in. They got a lot of stuff coming up this year. They're doing another record, and we're kind of starting to work on another record too. We got the whole next record is kind of done. We just have to actually all have time to come together and record it. And so that's kind of on the go. And Nataka's kind of getting busy this year too. So Tyler's getting really busy, so we're gonna have to try and find a permanent drummer, you know, that's just there for us. So anyone watching, if you want a drum gig, we're down.
Hit them up. No, and that's the hardest instrument to find, is a drummer that's not in 5 other bands. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's like you get a lot of the younger guys that just want to play death metal, right? Which is cool. I mean, I remember being there too. So, you know, it's hard to find people who, when you're doing something a little different, people are, you know, kind of, it seems a little harder to find someone for that kind of music. But
if you were trying to find, if you were trying to find like a jazz drummer, I think a jazz drummer would be able to add some really cool elements to it and still be able to tackle that heavy aspect.
Yeah.
Because they're some of the best drummers on the planet, and they don't ever get played with.
Yeah, I know a few guys. We'll see what happens. I mean, we might do the album with Tyler, and
that'd be awesome.
Just kind of waiting, because he's played with us like faithfully for a long time, and we're real gracious.
And he's an amazing dude.
He is.
He's so genuine.
I mean, he comes out and supports everybody.
Everyone.
Right?
Yeah, I know.
You see him, he goes out to You know, any of the shows, you know, he's phoning me, hey, are you coming to the show tonight?
Yeah, it's like Norman Jason.
Before you know, I even get a chance to talk to him. Yeah. So it's cool. And pretty much anything, even if I don't talk to him and I show up, he's always over there, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, he's a really, really cool guy. So
And that's what I love about our scene is like, you always see the same familiar faces out at every show. And like one of my favorite people in this music scene is Brandon.
Yeah.
Wallstrom, I think, or Winstrom, the guy, Vizzy guy, Vizzy Best Guy. Everyone knows him. He is famous as Vizzy Best Guy at shows because he's literally like high viz and moshing, and he's just, he's probably one of my favorite people. Him and Zach Robertson, and it's like, there are some amazing, like, they're not even in the bands, but like they make the show so much more enjoyable. Like it could be just them in the crowd, and I would be happy.
He's come out, man, to all my old stuff way back in the day too.
B?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's awesome. He's been around forever.
I think he lives in my neighborhood. I see him walk by my apartment every now and then.
Give him the devil horns.
You know, with the high vis. Yes, right.
Yeah, no, he's a funny one. This scene.
Jody.
Yes.
Jody Turner. He's
shout out to Jody. Like,
right?
I can't even. There's no words to describe Jody. Mm-hmm. Jody is probably the most dedicated person in this music, fans. Yeah, so every single show, and not even just local shows. The dude's like traveling to LA and he's traveling to Las Vegas. Like he is a music.
And if you ever sit there with his phone, he'll be like, "Oh, hey, and they'll have pictures of the Trailer Park Boys and actors and actresses, and he just goes right hard for everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, I wish there was more like diehard fans like him. Mm-hmm. It's cool. It's like we have a couple younger fans we've recently made from like a Denenzi show. Yeah. And they've shown up to every all ages show since, and they just kind of like keeps like growing every show with them. Like they're bringing new people, and I'm like, these are my favorite fans now because they they go so hard. Then at the end, they're like so excited to talk to you. And it's like, I don't know. It makes you feel like how when we were younger and you got to talk to a band after a show, you know? It's like, it's like that, like.
Well, back in the day too, man, like when we were hitting when Facebook was just taking off.
Oh, God.
No one really knew how to do any kind of social media stuff. So, you know, I used to talk to like the guys from The Crown, like probably half the In Flames crew, like and Meshuggah and stuff. Like when that's how old I am. When the internet was first taking off, and it's like I'm serious. There was the Meshuggah website, and there was the Megadeth website, and there was almost nothing else, right? And so you just email these guys, and they were just like we are now, right? They're just these dudes who enjoyed their music, and I got to talk to a lot of those people and meet a lot of those people too, you know, just from that. But now it's different, you know. Now it's, you know, you get people email you and they want to sell you something, or they want to take over your page or something, right?
Yeah, that's the hard part about the industry, right? Yeah. That's where it becomes the business versus like that's where you really got to decide if you want to be a full-time musician or if you just want to be a musician who writes music. Yeah. Because like if you're wanting to do this as a career, you're not going to have friends, you're not going to have family, you're not going to have kids, you're not going to have any of this because you're going to have to sacrifice every single one of those just to be able to have time to put enough time in to make a music career. Yeah. And that's the really the hard thing to face is like,
I mean, you could totally do a career like in music where it's, you know, like a part-time thing where you're just out there playing. I mean, you don't even need to put records out. I mean, I know lots of guys who have really good songs that maybe it took them 10 years before they even put a CD out or something, but they gigged all the time, right? They do throw a couple covers in, and I'm not talking like a full cover band, but they'll throw, you know, a couple Black Sabbath covers in and a couple originals, and they'll go out and play, and then eventually down the road they'll put out a record, right? Yeah. I've seen guys do that too, and I mean, you could still, I mean, it's just, it's getting, it seems to be getting less what you get paid to play a show, you know?
I think it's just, it's
compared to what it was like even back in the day. I mean, when you'd rent the hall and it cost you $300 for the hall, and you're charging $10 at the door, and the whole place is packed. Well, you're making pretty good money, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's what happens. Everybody wants a different cut of the pie, and it just, you know, it just goes up and up to the point where it's like nobody's making money, right?
Yeah,
You're
and
just
then,
fighting tooth and nail
Yeah.
to have a little piece of nothing, you know, or something.
yeah, it comes down to like a huge moral battle too. I find it's like you want to provide the best music possible
Yeah.
without it coming out of pocket. And like people like me, it's supposed to be about the music, and it's always going to be about the music.
Yeah.
But you can't provide the music if you don't have time to do so. Like if you've
Yeah.
got to work a 12-hour shift,
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and then you're not going to have time to write music. So it's like you got to give those sacrifices up. And I feel like that's where, like, if we were to inspire the next generation just to be like, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can 100% be a working full-time musician,
Mhm.
but don't think you're going to be the next Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Don't look at it like that. Look at it as I need to make X amount of money a month to cover my bills.
Mhm.
How many shows do I have to book?
Yeah.
How much merch do I have to sell? And how much is my travel going to cost?
Mhm.
Make it a business. Work
Yeah.
for yourself, and then you will be successful.
Yeah.
And it's not
100%.
about like making a million views. It's about living off your music.
That's the
Shows-
important part, right? You don't let life break you. You just do what you want to do. I mean, that's what freedom really is, you know? You know, so.
If you had any advice for upcoming aspiring musicians in today's day and age that are trying to figure out how to get their foot in the door to start performing, what would you give them? What advice?
I don't know, man. I mean, obviously work hard at your craft. It's such a different thing now with all the social media stuff that you kind of got to stay on top of a lot of that. I mean, as long as you're staying on the top of a lot of that, and you're always practicing, and you're making your show better. Obviously, branding is very important too. You know, get a logo, and don't change it every 2 months. Just, you know, kind of keep it the same, and work on stuff and try and make stuff better. It's a hard job. It's not as, I don't think it's ever been easy, but you know, it's definitely, it's easier nowadays to get your stuff out there than it ever was. But there's so much stuff going on, and to kind of stay on top of all of that, it's really hard. But I definitely just say work hard, you know, work hard and enjoy what you do. Because if you don't enjoy what you do, you're not going to have any fun, you know?
Yep.
And that, I mean, that's really what it is about, right? You know, doing music and being that, and doing that stuff is freedom. You know, you're doing what you want to do, not what someone else tells you to do. And, you know, just try and become a better person, inspire the next generation, I guess, you know? And, yeah. But just hard work, man. It's lots of hard work. And I mean, you know, the one thing that I've always liked about music is the more you put in, the more you get back, right? It's the same. I mean, nowadays you can go invest money of someone and totally get ripped off, you know, but something like to do something with music, and as long as you're constantly putting stuff in, you're always getting the same back usually, you know, and that's what I like, you know. It's just it's the last pure form of art or expression, you know, that's out there, you know. Everything else seems to be made off money, and for money and, you know, becoming wealthy. And it's music is, you know, I don't play music because I'm trying to become wealthy or anything, but it's like artistic freedom, right? I mean, I guess some people, maybe they wouldn't have that, but I mean, for me, that's what I've gotten out of it, is just artistic freedom to do what I want to do. And, yeah, I'm grateful to have had any of the experiences and stuff that I've had over the years. You know, I've had a lot of good things. There's probably lots of stuff that I haven't really hit on here with, you know, chatting with you. I mean, I could go on for days.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you got road stories and stuff like that. I mean,
it's definitely,
yeah. We
could do another two full interviews with you on the amount of you've accomplished. And
yeah, we've had a good time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing
awesome.
this. I appreciate you so much and everything you've done for
you
our
guys
scene.
Too. Everything you do in town for the music scene, it's awesome.
Thank you. We definitely want to get back on stage together.
Yes,
and
soon.
Back on the road again, because touring together is absolutely entertaining.
It's very entertaining.
Oh, it is so fun. Well, my friend, thank you once again. And we will catch you guys. Yeah, we will catch you guys next time.